Hi, I'm Riley Moynes, author of The 4 Phases of Retirement and its sequel, The 10 Lessons. We're speaking with people who are squeezing all the juice out of their retirement. People with widely divergent backgrounds, experience, and expertise. People with stories that can inspire and encourage you too to squeeze all the juice out of your retirement. Thanks for joining us for today's conversation. Here we go. Today we're talking with Dr. Jim Morris, a longtime friend from Thunder Bay. Jim started as a teacher and then along the way made a number of rewirings and continues to squeeze all the juice out of his retirement. So Jim, welcome. Thanks for being here. You started your life as a teacher. Tell us about the background. Why did you decide that you wanted to teach as your career choice?
Yes, indeed. As a high school student, I was an athlete in many areas and went on to Queen's to get a degree in physical and health education, which naturally leads for most of us into the teaching profession and the coaching profession. So as a result, I guess my main emphasis was on working with students, working with athletes, and enjoyed a fairly long career as a teacher, coach, counselor, and had many pleasant experiences with students, and I still see many of them today.
Jimmy, you started your teaching career actually by going to Jamaica, which is a little bit unusual. How did that happen?
Yes, indeed. When I was at Queen's, I knew a number of Jamaican students, and in chatting with them and talking about opportunities to teach, and one little sidebar is my father was actually born in Jamaica. So in chatting with them, first question I said, well, do they need teachers in Jamaica? And yes, indeed they did. And so one thing led to another, and I was contacted by a headmaster at a high school in Jamaica and signed a contract and went there for 3 wonderful years.
What made you come back?
Well, one thing, both my wife's family and my family were back in Thunder Bay, and it just was something that I felt I wanted to do, but after doing it, I thought, well, I have to get back to reality, living in the sun for 3 years and so on, and getting back to my own type of teaching situation was what drove us back to Thunder Bay. And my wife, by the way, is a nurse, and she nursed for 2 of the years we were there, and so she had a wonderful experience as well.
Mm-hmm. So you came back to Thunder Bay and you dove into teaching and spent about 20 years in education, various roles?
Over 20 years, and made some great memories and coached most sports that phys ed people coach: basketball, football, track and field, gymnastics, golf, you name it, track and field. You as a phys ed generalist, you have to coach what teams are available.
And after about 20 years, you decided to make a switch.
Well, as the saying goes, we're here for a good time, not a long time. And after well over 20 years, I thought, well, time to make a change. And what can you do as a phys ed guy? Well, you meet people, you talk to people, you coach or counsel people. And as a result, I thought, well, why not go into sales? My father, by the way, for 40 years was Mr. Christie Biscuit. He sold Christie's Biscuits in Thunder Bay for many years. And so I thought, why not sales? And one of the sales opportunities turned out to be real estate. So I did the qualification exams for the real estate course, took the course, and took a 2-year leave of absence and started selling real estate, which was a great career, but type A behavior, I tell you, you work 24/7 as a realtor.
Mm-hmm. So you spent 2 years selling real estate and then went back to teaching.
Yes, I mean, I had 2, very exciting high-pressure years, and then I decided I had a leave of absence from the Board of Education, so I went back to my original position at the school that I was at and taught for another 2 years.
And then the bug got you again, and you were looking for another change.
Well, the big change came when Dr. Riley Moynes at Moynes Securities enticed me to join his firm. And so I thought, what the heck, why not go into financial services? So I took the courses for mutual fund sales and brokerage sales, etc., and joined Dr. Moynes' practice.
So this is a guy who kind of reinvents himself over and over and over again, as we're going to see, and we're really just getting started. After about 3 years in financial services, another change.
Another change was a bit longer than 3 years, but as a physical and health education teacher, of course, one of the things that you stress when you're doing health education courses or classes is the whole area of smoking and trying to get students to either become non-smokers or to not smoke at all. And an opportunity arose where I was approached by the local cancer center to join their staff in the prevention area. And I was hired and soon became the quit coach, working with smoking patients, family members, and community members. And I was there for 13 years as the quit coach at the local cancer center.
So what's the thread that links all of these together, Jim? The teaching in Jamaica, the teaching back here in Canada, the real estate, the financial services, the quit coach. What's the tie that pulls them all together? What's the constant here? As
I think I've told you, Riley, on occasion, my mother used to say you have ants in your pants, whether it's the attention span wasn't there, but I just enjoy doing different things, learning, educating, and working with people. And so at the Cancer Center, of course, as the quit coach, one of the big benefits, of course, is you change people's lives completely, and hopefully they live longer, healthier lives.
Right. Looking to have an impact. After some time then at the Cancer Center, you launched your own practice for a couple of years.
Yes, I left the Cancer Center and had my own private practice, my own office, etc. But socialized medicine outweighs individual practices in Ontario. If people have to pay for services, it's different than if the government, the health system is paying. Right. So I did that for 2 or 3 years, and income has to equal outgo, as they say. So if the income wasn't there and the outgo was there, you're working, and it wasn't as shall we say, as prosperous as I would have liked to have had it with my private practice.
Right. And during this time, Jim, you wrote a book called Live to 126.
Right.
Tell us about that one.
Live to 126. How to live a very long and healthy life. It's a small book, but it has a number of key points that I try to emphasize with people as a health educator, that and I do presentations, do workshops and seminars, and the title of the seminars is How Long Do You Plan to Live? And where I talk about the different ways in which people can live healthier lives, live longer lives. And it's a bit of tongue-in-cheek as far as the title, because where the title comes from was in the summer of 2017, I was listening to Quirks and Quarks. Many of you know the CBC Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon program, Quirks and Quarks. And Bob McDonald, the gentleman that runs the program, was talking to a researcher and an expert on longevity, and what really jumped out at me listening to the program was his statement was that in 2017, a male child in Canada born, the life expectancy would be 126. The average life expectancy would be 126. And that really jumped out at me. I thought, well, if some little young kid can live to 126, I can live to 126 too. So I wrote the book, but what I point out to people is that if I'd have written the book in 1920, the title would have been Live to 81, because in 1920, the average, which would have been unheard of, live to 81, people have said, gosh, people can't live to 81, or very few live to 81. The average life expectancy of a Canadian male in 1920 was 59.
Right.
So we've come a long way.
People interested can get that book.
Yes, it's sold on Amazon, and also the way in get in touch with me, of course, is I also have another hobby activity that I do that Riley may mention in a few minutes. But a number of years ago, I invented a wonderful, useful item called the Bearstick. And the Bearstick is a hiking stick that can be used defensively, and it's basically a hiking stick that has a 6.5, 7-inch RDOC spike embedded in the handle, and the handle comes off. And so if you are confronted by an aggressive animal, say a bear, wolf, cougar, coyote, whatever the wild animal is, you have at least a chance of keeping the animal 4 feet away. And I sell these at craft markets, and I do sell some on my website, thebearstick.com. thebearstick.com, and I sell a lot across Canada off my website, and I actually do ship them down to the U.S.
Right. The or the hiking stick with attitude.
Yes, and I know all kinds of people who hesitate, especially we're in Northern Ontario. There are bears all over the walking trails and hiking trails and camping trails, and I've yet to talk to a hiker or camper or blueberry picker or fisherman that are on the trails out in the bush, away from civilization, that there's always a little voice in the back of their mind saying, what do I do if I'm suddenly confronted by an aggressive animal?
Right.
Well, if you have a bear stick, at least you have 4 feet between you and the aggressive bear.
Jimmy, where did the idea for the Bearstick come from?
Well, I did Aikido for 20 years with Japanese martial art, and in that particular martial art, there are 3 weapons. A tanto is a wooden knife. You do knife attacks, knife defense. A bokken is a wooden sword. You do sword attack and defense. And a jo is a hiking staff or a walking staff, a 50-inch hiking staff. And for several years after I started hiking and camping with my wife, I hiked with my jo. Then I started thinking, well, that's okay if you're in the dojo with a partner working on kata, but what happens if there's an animal? So I went to Home Depot, bought some doweling, figured out how to get to the RDOC spike into the main shaft of the hiking stick, and my wife and I hiked with our own individual bear sticks. And then my friend who I'm sitting here talking to, Dr. Riley Moynes, kept saying, Jimmy, why don't you make them for people to buy?
Monetize.
Monetize. Well, that's a new expression, but monetize. And indeed, after starting to make them, I started to realize, well, all kinds of people are very comfortable hiking with a bear stick. And it's like anything in life, you want to reduce risk. When you're in a car, you should wear a seatbelt. When you're in a canoe, you should wear a flotation device. When you're on a bike, you should wear a helmet. Maybe when you hike, you should hike with a bear stick. And every bear stick I've sold, I say to the person, I hope and pray you never have to use it defensively, but hike with it.
Right. And you visit these craft shows really across northwestern Ontario?
Exactly.
And,
I go to,
that's
in
where
the summer almost weekly, or on weekends, I'm at craft shows, markets, and so on. I do sell them off my website, thebearstick.com, but the majority of them I sell face-to-face, where people actually see them and say, gee, this is interesting. They're not that expensive. I won't get into that, but if people are comfortable with them, they find they have value. They're certainly everybody that hikes a hiking stick, whether it's a bear stick or an ordinary hiking stick, it's called a third leg, uphill, downhill, using it for support.
Sure. And you've been doing that for, what, 5,
this
6?
is the 5th, this is the 5th September coming up.
Yeah. So there aren't many people that I know who have had the variety of experiences, both during their working careers and making adjustments, and then in retirement. I'm not sure, Jimmy, whether you ever consider yourself to have retired. You just keep reinventing and rewiring.
Right. I used to say my best years are going to be between now and 90, but hey, I'm approaching that now. So now I say my best years between now and 100. As I get towards that, I'll say the best years between now and 126. But if you have a purpose in life, if you get up every day and say, what am I going to do, and keep yourself busy and occupied and fit. And I want to get into diet, and that's is one key element that I stress. But as long as you have a purpose in life, and get up every morning and have a desire to keep moving, well, who knows?
Right. But for you, there's more than a purpose, which to me kind of implies a reason for getting up, and that's certainly important. But it seems to me that there's a thread through all of the things that you've done is that you're really trying to help other people too.
Exactly. I mean, one example I think I've used with several people is as a coach. as a coach. One of the areas that I really loved coaching was gymnastics. And of course, gymnastics is the weak sister in the sporting system in the high schools. And getting gym time, because there's basketball, football, volleyball, badminton, etc. So for years, roughly 20 years, when I coached gymnastics, guess when our time in the gymnasium was? 7 in the morning. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for years and years and years, I was at the school opening up the gym at 7 in the morning, and our gym team, gym club, worked out from 7 to 8:45 for years and years and years. And I loved it because the kids certainly got something out of it, and it was contributing to the schools and contributing to their well-being.
Do you have, or have you ever had what some people referred to as a bucket list, a kind of a number of things that you just want to accomplish, or have these things evolved in a kind of a different way for you?
Things with me seem to evolve, and I hesitate to make bucket lists because I think people make the bucket list, which I understand is a recent innovation as far as people's way of living. I tend to feel if you make a bucket list and you plan and then do it, there might be a letdown. So I just let things happen. I don't want to put things down on paper. I don't want to but if you're planning something, you certainly say, well, okay, I'm going to do it. But as far as making bucket lists, I just let each day come along. I do my planning, but certainly I don't like to say I've got a bucket list.
Right. So what are the criteria then that you would use in making a decision from going to Jamaica to doing real estate to financial services to the cancer center to Bearsticks? What attracts you to? How do you make those decisions?
Some of these decisions, I thought about them for a short time, mulled about them, and then I thought, well, let's do it. Don't procrastinate. Let's do it. Yeah. And once you make the decision, you say, okay, I'm going to move towards that. The other thing that maybe you didn't mention was I traveled with my wife and 2 kids out to the University of Oregon. Went across the country from Thunder Bay, Ontario to Eugene, Oregon. I did my master's and doctoral degree way out on the West Coast. Right. Why? Because I knew a couple of friends who'd done graduate work at Oregon. It sounded wonderful. I have a very supportive wife, and she said, okay, if you want to go, we'll go. Pack up the kids, head out to the West Coast, which takes 2 or 3 years out of your life. So once again, we're here for a good time, not a long time. And,
although you're aiming for a long time, too.
Well, yes,
I'm for 100,
and even longer,
longer than that. So when you hear the phrase squeezing all the juice out of retirement, which is really kind of the theme that we're working on in this podcast series. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think no matter what phase you're at in your retirement, keep doing different things, keep doing new things. And I don't want to be demeaning of people, but I see so many people that have retired that are in Thunder Bay, and they go from coffee shop meeting to coffee shop meeting. They go to one at 9 o'clock, and then they go home for lunch, then they go for 2 o'clock, and certainly they're involved in things, but they're with the same old guys, the same old group, and that's great if they want to do it. But I think that would drive me crazy.
Right. So newness is part of it for you.
Newness, doing new things.
Just the excitement of doing new things. And when you hear the phrase "don't retire," at least in the traditional sense, but rewire. What does that mean to you? And does that fit for you? Does that resonate with you?
Well, I used to say, the big event after you retire is you expire. The new phrase is rewire, but I don't want to retire and then expire, because I used to work with so many people, and as a teacher, they would be counting the days down. Yeah. How many days till I have my retirement? And I say, well, the next big thing is how many days am I going to be here before I expire? So don't count the days, just reinvent yourself, rewire, don't expire. Yeah. And it's coming to all of us. And to me, hopefully later, but hey, just keep doing new things, keep rewiring.
Right. Jimmy, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Riley.